People in our own backyards are hurting. There are insecurities around food, economics, mental health, access to justice, healthcare, and our society continues to become more divisive. But there is hope. Right here in Chicagoland, there are people and organizations who are on the front lines, working to bring about positive and transformative change. Each week, we're going to meet some of these agents of change and examine how they are spurring innovative ideas and finding solutions to push our society forward in a more just direction. I'm Sufyan Sohel, and this is Change Agents. Every day in our country, millions of low-income Americans are prevented from finding safe housing, meeting their critical healthcare needs, and exercising other rights simply due to our country's inability to ensure that everyone facing a legal problem can access help for it. A 2022 report by the Legal Services Corporation found that in over 9 out of 10 cases, low-income Americans don't receive adequate legal help for their civil legal problems, a figure that has only worsened during the pandemic. 75% of low-income households experienced at least one civil legal problem in the past year. 40% of low-income households experienced at least 5 civil legal problems, and 1 in 5 experienced at least 10 problems. For communities of color, immigrants, rural communities, and those living below the poverty line, the justice gap is simply the status quo. It's pervasive injustice felt by a low-income family that's unable to fight an unlawful eviction. It's a young mother's inability to file an order of protection against her domestic abuser. It's the English-only legal notice received by an immigrant with limited English proficiency. And it's a slow and steady erosion of rights that marginalize entire communities and feed systemic inequality. To help us understand this a little bit better, I'm excited to introduce my first guest, Adam Salzman, Executive Director of the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic. Adam, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm pleased to be here.
Wonderful. Adam, I just gave some statistics, and we have a problem in this country. Can you shed a little bit more light on that, please?
Yeah, I think you captured it very eloquently, the notion of the slow erosion of rights creating a situation that becomes intractable after a little while. And Chicago is not unlike other large metropolitan areas in the country, in that there are inequities that have taken root in communities due to systemic racism, due to patterns of disinvestment that don't just marginalize communities and cause them to become disconnected from critically important services like education and public safety, but also create a scenario where the very vehicle they need to assert their rights, the legal system, becomes inaccessible to them. And as you pointed out quite well, that happens in a variety of ways, whether it's in the communication of remedies that are available to them, or as everybody is probably most ready to associate with access to legal services, the ability simply to find a lawyer. And that's where we come in.
Let's go back to why it's so hard to, one, find a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, and I know there's so many. Chicago Bar Association, American Bar Association offer lists of lawyers. Is it a cost thing? Is it just not knowing where to start looking?
It's a little bit of both, but I think anybody with a clear-eyed view of the situation would say that at its root, the problem is an economic one.
Okay.
And it's like a lot of large institutional systemic players in American society. The institutions exist, but they are largely administered in an atmosphere of unregulated market capitalism. So because I'm a lawyer too, when you go to law school, most people go to law school with it in mind to graduate, get a good job, pay off their loans, and hopefully make a good bit of money for themselves. There is a very special breed of lawyer, of which I believe you are one, and I guess I would humbly submit that maybe I'm one of these people too that go to law school because they want to help people. Those people are in the minority. And so the legal landscape in any given American city is not likely to have a lot of folks who can provide services to people who can't afford to pay your average legal fees on the private market. We're talking about hundreds of dollars an hour, or very large flat fees. So it is, I think, at its root, an economic problem. On the other hand, I think you were right to point out the communications piece as well. I think sometimes, whether it's due to language barriers, and so many people who are often exploited and have their rights trampled upon are immigrants, and English might not be their first language, or simply the unwillingness of certain bad actors in society, whether they be predatory lenders or unscrupulous landlords, unwillingness to play by the rules if they think they have an advantage. That sometimes creates a situation where people simply don't know what their rights are. So that's another intractable systemic problem that people face.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is another problem that even just navigating the whole legal world challenging? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I think that's related in a way to what I was just talking about. So for example, if you are served with an eviction notice or a foreclosure notice, but let's go with an eviction notice, and you, number one, you can't afford a lawyer on the private market. Number two, the notice is written in such a way that you can't really appreciate what it is you have to do or really understand what the process that's about to unfold looks like. Maybe if you're lucky, you can at least glean that you got to be in court on a certain date. You show up to court, you don't have a lawyer. At that point, you're likely shuttled into a courtroom with a very busy call, and without a lawyer to help you navigate it. You don't necessarily know when your case is going to be called, and when it is called, if you do get up in front of a judge, you don't necessarily really understand what the judge is saying or what the process entails, and you don't have a lawyer to help explain the system to you. That happens in courthouses all over the country, and there are things, and maybe we'll talk about it, that we can do to clarify things for people who are in that situation. But as a general proposition for somebody without the resources to navigate it, our courts are large, intimidating, difficult to navigate institutions.
Now, you run the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic. What sort of civil cases do you provide services for?
So we provide housing services, we provide immigration services, family law. We run a program that expunges and seals criminal or law enforcement records for people who are seeking to have their slate cleared so they can obtain employment. We do disability rights, and we have an urban environmental law program. So we have a variety of civil programs that we have been administering now for almost 42 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So why was your organization founded? Was it to meet this need?
Yeah, well, yes and no. It was founded to meet these kinds of needs, but originally it was founded to meet the needs in one very specific, much smaller area. So we were originally the South Chicago Legal Clinic, and we were established in 1981 in the South Chicago neighborhood, around 91st and Commercial, if you can map it in your head. And the idea was, at that time, early days of the Reagan administration, a lot of the industries that were supporting the area economically, steel mills in particular, were closing. So the community was really in a world of hurt. And there are two law school graduates, Ed Grossman and Tom Paprocki. They were law school classmates, and they started this organization specifically for that neighborhood. And over time, it just grew organically and became something that served the entire metropolitan area. And now, we serve the entire city of Chicago and also suburban Cook County. So we've got a pretty large footprint.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do people who need these legal needs, who have these legal needs, how do they hear about your organization? And then what's the steps that they take to get the need addressed?
Well, what I would do first and foremost is go on to, if you have access to a computer, go on to Illinois Legal Aid Online, ileo.org. They have a great point of access, not just to our organization, which is, our website is gclclaw.org, but also to a number of other legal services organizations who specialize in different areas of the law that we don't do. Criminal law, for example, we don't do criminal. There are organizations also that drill down and specialize more specifically in certain areas that we do more generally. So in any case, ILEO is a good point of access for all of that. And if you happen to be one of those people who's in court already and not sure of how to help yourself, there are numerous help desks that you can also go to and get information on the clinic.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope our viewers find that really helpful as well. What are the needs you're seeing most? Who are the type of people who are calling you? What are their demographics, and what purpose are they calling you for?
We get a great deal of immigration intake.
Okay.
And when I first came to the clinic, it was 2017. So that's early days of the Trump administration. There was a lot of fear, a lot of panic, and
Chaos.
We saw that, as I know you did too. We saw that in our intake every day. And we still see it, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but there is a great deal of demand for that. And it's interesting, it sort of also can mirror what's going on in the world, whether it's Venezuela or Afghanistan or Ukraine. So I would put immigration at the top of the list. Housing is always a very busy area for us.
Like
so
eviction?
Eviction and foreclosure defense.
Okay.
Both of those are very busy areas for us. And there's also always a demand for family law, whether it's somebody who's in a marital situation that they want to dissolve. We do assist people who are dealing with domestic violence situations. And we have also established kind of a unique niche when it comes to child support, parentage and child support. We have a special help desk that gives free legal advice on that topic as well.
Is that at the courthouse?
So it was at the courthouse until COVID. Now it's fully remote.
Oh, okay.
But we're still providing the service, and we're really the only people in the state who do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But how would someone who may not have access to internet get help?
So you'd have to call the clinic,
Okay.
right? So that's at 312-735-2666.
Wonderful. What are you most proud of, what that the clinic has accomplished?
I would
Or is
say,
working on?
I mean, I'm proud of what we do every day, and I think the nature of our organization is that we are accomplishing things for people every day. So it's oftentimes not huge, impactful appellate court victories, Supreme Court, precedent-setting cases. Typically, it's much more in the realm of helping somebody ensure that they are not thrown out of their apartment, helping somebody secure their disability benefits, helping somebody buy a little bit of time and negotiate an agreement with their bank that will permit them to stay in their house. That kind of stuff is what's going on at the clinic every day. And that's really the thing that I'm most proud of, is that we continue to grind it out. We continue to do the work, and we continue to help create a more compassionate infrastructure for people who usually are facing the system through no fault of their own.
It really looks like that. I mean, it may on the big picture not look like much, but for the lives of the people you're helping, it's probably huge and monumental what you're doing for them.
I think so, and it just makes a difference. And even if the result that's obtained is not 100% what someone would have hoped for, just to know that you have somebody on your side who will go to bat for you, just purely out of their desire to help. And regardless of any economic imperative, just because it's the right thing, that is worth a lot.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
Greater Chicagoland is very lucky to have you and the clinic to have their backs.
Oh, thank you so much. We're proud to talk about it and very proud to have the opportunity to talk with you.
Of course.
Thanks.
Sit tight. We'll be right back with our next guest, a client of the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic, who will join us to share her story.
Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. as I discuss the journey of an adoptee.
In my records, it talks about the social worker's observations of me and my mother, and there was a disconnect.
Welcome back. Joining me next is Cynthia Ampadu, a former client of the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic. Cynthia, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Cynthia, tell us what happened. Tell us a little bit about your background.
My name is Cynthia Ampadu, and I'm from Ghana, West
Ghana.
Africa.
Okay.
I came to Chicago, I would say, 20 years ago because my son is 17 years old.
Okay.
And I've been living here since,
Since 20.
yeah.
Okay. And what brought you to Chicago?
My parents, my mom, my dad was in the army.
Okay.
And then back then, when you're army, you have opportunity to travel.
Yeah.
So my daddy went to Germany and get opportunity to come to America. Then he chose to come to Chicago.
Okay.
Then later on, my mom joined him. Then eventually, I joined too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Do you love Chicago?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
I plan to move it.
Where?
It doesn't to Ohio.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Chicago's better, but
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what happened? What was the problem that led you to the clinic?
The clinic. 2 years ago, around the COVID, April 25th, precisely, and my son went to Indiana to buy a part because he have a car and the car gets to accident. Then along the way, he got robbed. Then a shot. He was shot.
Sorry to hear that.
So he was killed instantly. So then, as a mother, I went crazy.
I can imagine.
I forgot I have to pay my bill. I forgot to go to work. I didn't work for 6 months. It's like I didn't know what to do. And it's like I'm only one family in this America because my dad went back home. He passed away. My mom moved to Canada with a different man. So it's like I'm only one stuck in Chicago. And it was really tough. So I kind of, things mess up and I fall behind without even notice.
On your rent? And
Yeah,
other
the
payments?
rent, I fall total behind. So the management called me and I told them what happened. And so they should give me a time to find money to pay. They wouldn't do it. One manager over there insists they're gonna take me to court. And then I didn't have no option. I said, okay, if you're gonna take me to court, you have to take me to court. Then they served me 30 days for me to move,
Yeah.
to scare me. So when I received the letter, I really panicked, really panicked. So I ran to City Hall to find help. And the lady over there didn't know what to do because the COVID, everything was online. And I'm not good online either. So
Me neither. I
No,
get
so
it.
they showed me another place, Chicago, House of Chicago.
Okay.
So I went there and the lady over there was so nice. So she gave me some numbers to call. And I called few numbers and there's no help. Eventually I met a guy named Joe. Joe is the one, I'll say he's my blessing. He just lead me gradually, step by step. Call this, you can write a letter to the management. 30 days is not good. They have to give you 120 days. So I did, and it was like, now they found out, now she know she got a lawyer, so we're gonna take her actually to court. So Joe walked me through graduate. Then I met my lawyer. I can't pronounce his name, so I called Mr. Lawyer. So he walked me through, he took my case, and he walked me through, and it's like, Mr. Barry was like, oh, I don't know, I wish he was here to give me a hug. He was like, fantastic lawyer.
And he was with the clinic.
Yes.
I'm sure Adam, who was on here right before you, will pass on that love.
Yeah, he was amazing. He asked me my little background. I told him, every day I talk to him, I cry. I break down. And he'd be like quiet, and he'd be trying to comfort me, you know. And it got some point, I told him, I'm gonna take my life. He said, no, you can't do that. We have more time to go. As we gotta talk to the lawyer, because it got to a point, the lawyer gave me like November 16 to move out if they don't have the check. So he quickly finds somebody in the courtroom to help me to apply for a rent assistant. And I forgot the lady name too. She was fantastic too. So it's like they all working team to help me out. So eventually the check came in for $14,737. So my lawyer took it. We presented to the judge. The judge said, "Oh, sorry, but we gave you November 16 to move out. Since you didn't move out, you gotta go with the money." I said, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do?" And I just screamed to my lawyer. I said, "Please, I can't move. I have a son, 17, so we can't go. We don't have no place to go." So we battled back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, he called me and said, "Guess what? The management want you to stay."
That's
I
so
said,
great.
"What? I'm already out there looking for an apartment." He said, "Well, the management lawyer just told me they're willing to take you back." And it was amazing.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yes.
I'm so happy for you that worked out, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I can't even imagine how that affected you.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that you weren't able to focus on
Yes.
your day-to-day things. And
Yeah.
but I'm glad you were able to find the assistance through the
Yeah.
clinic to help you navigate.
But it wasn't easy to find them.
Yeah. It
'Cause-
seems like you had to take lots of different
We did-
steps.
yes.
Until you finally
To
found the
find them,
clinic.
yeah.
Do you wish it was easier?
I wish it was easier.
Yeah.
I wish it was so easy, because my first case, I didn't have a lawyer. So they pushed me to something called EP something.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I went there, nobody wanted to take my case.
Did they
No.
give you reasons of why they didn't want to take your case?
No, I guess there was no lawyers.
Okay.
They are back order. So
But you're safe and sound in your house now,
yes,
and everything's going well.
yes, everything is going well.
So what I would love to hear as we wrap up tonight is why organizations like the clinic are so important for people like you and me.
Because I can afford it. I cannot afford it. Even if the lawyer charged me $20 per hour, I cannot. So, and I know probably, they will try to do something, but not from inside. But this clinic, they work from inside. They are compassionate. But especially my lawyer.
From the heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
From
Sounds
from
like
here.
it.
From here. Yeah.
That's magical.
Yes, with the compassion, they understand you because they know you don't have it, so they put the effort. Sometimes my lawyer will call me off the job and see how am I doing, how am I holding on, because he's a great.
That's so wonderful. If there was a message you could share right now to all of them at the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic, what would you tell them?
I would say they have to build a lot of clinics like this in courtroom. Yeah, they have to, offer these clinics.
There's probably a lot of need.
A lot of needs.
Yeah.
A lot, because when I went to court, we do the court in Zoom, and I can see some people don't have a lawyer like I have. So I was so lucky to have my lawyer with the clinic too. I was so lucky because I see some people some people don't have a lawyer, so they don't come. And you see them, then you have to move. Then the case is closed. So I wish they have this clinic and help people just like me. Not because I'm a foreigner, but just I was the position I need help.
You needed
and
help.
it was the help. They was there for me.
And I'm so glad you got the help, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
the clinic was able to be there for you
Yes.
when you needed them most.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for
Yes.
coming on tonight and joining us and
Thank
all
you.
of our viewers and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Cynthia and Adam. It is so clear how impactful the work of the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic has been to Cynthia and all of the clinic's other clients. We'll be right back with this week's Change in Action.
This week on Generation Flex, we talk about dating. I'm told it's rough out here in these streets. What are the rules around approaching people now?
Now that part, I'm lost. Because I'm lost on that part, and I'm lost on going back to the dating and courting.
Generation Flex airs Mondays at 7 p.m. on CAN TV 19, cantv.org, and on the new CAN TV Plus app.
In this week's Change in Action, we have another great Chicago legal nonprofit who's doing some groundbreaking work. I'm so pleased to introduce Mona Elgindi at Legal Aid Chicago.
My name is Mona Elgindi. I'm a supervisor in our public benefits group, and I supervise our medical legal partnerships. Here at Legal Aid Chicago, we are the largest legal aid service provider to Cook County. So we essentially provide our services for free in a variety of different scenarios, one of that being in our medical legal partnerships. That essentially means that we are part of a healthcare team where we can provide legal services to patients that get referred to us through our medical providers. Usually the cases that will come to us will not really be focused on the medical part, except that that's the door of how they get to us. So a lot of the cases we get will be homeless individuals who are going through Cook County Health System, which we are a partner with them, and they have no food stamps or no public benefits or Social Security benefits, but should be because they're disabled. So another example that we got was there is a cash benefit that not a lot of people are aware of called AABD cash here in Illinois. And so a lot of clients qualify for this cash benefit but do not get it. Because most cases people don't even know they can get it, we can argue and make a case that not only should they be getting it now, but when they applied for benefits like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they should have been getting it back then too, or been evaluated for the benefit. And that didn't happen and should have, and we can many times get back awards of very significant amounts of money. We just want people to stay connected to whatever benefits they need to support their life, because these benefits sometimes are the only source of income that they have. You know, you can go online and apply for services, you can call our intake line for services. We have partner agencies that refer cases to us through their contacts in the community of people who are low income, you know, one-on-one and giving them advice. So we try to be as creative as we can to get out there and to touch as many people. We have, you know, online resources. We have just referring to other agencies. If something that we can't do, we definitely are going to refer you to someone who can, so you don't kind of ever hit a wall when you do need legal help and something that's affecting your well-being. I feel very blessed to do this work. I feel like it's very rewarding. I honestly don't know how other lawyers do what they do, because I don't know if they have that kind of benefit, but I feel very fortunate that every person I can work with, I can help in some way, big or small. If anything, give them answers to the questions that they just can't always find easily.
Thank you, Mona, and to Legal Aid Chicago for your incredible work. According to a 2022 study by the Legal Services Corporation, most low-income households have dealt with at least one civil legal problem in the past year. Most low-income Americans do not get any or enough legal help for their civil legal problems, and the cost of legal help stands out as an important barrier. Legal service organizations are unable to provide any or enough legal help for an estimated 1.4 million civil legal problems that are brought to their doors each year. Martin Luther King said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" I say we can do more. For those needing legal support, we need to invest in the organizations on the ground, like the Greater Chicago Legal Clinic and Legal Aid Chicago, who are doing this work. And we need to find innovative ways to make a real and lasting impact on bridging the justice gap. And we need to focus on simplification and building the tools so everyday Americans can engage with our legal system, no matter their station in life, country of origin, gender, or ability. Each of us can be change agents. Let us all be change agents. Thank you, my friends. I will see you next week.